Hi, Steve. We got Steve Christmann with us. Great super businessman from New York. And how are you doing today, Steve?
Wonderful, wonderful.
Okay, so the world has been shook. Now, what impact will the Trump presidency have on business? And what new business trends do you think this will generate?
Well, it will have a tremendous impact on business. One, because Donald Trump is a wealth creator and job creator.
Yeah.
He brings forward a different consciousness that we have not had in the past 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
He will put America first and put American jobs first. Mm-hmm. This is going to have a tremendous impact on American business specifically. Mm-hmm. Now, what specific impacts? I would look for jobs to come back from overseas into the heartland of the United States. Mm-hmm. I would look for the Rust Belt to develop.
Yeah.
And I look for the manufacturing sector once again to evolve back to what America once was.
Yeah.
I mean, we literally went backwards since 1992 with NAFTA.
Yeah.
A measure of a society is the industrial revolution that brought us forward.
Yeah.
We literally erased the industrial revolution in the United States by this outsourcing overseas, exporting of business, of jobs, which are the middle class, which keep money circulating through the economy.
Yeah.
Arguably, the most vital element of the economy is the middle class.
Yeah, well, in any economy. Yeah, if you as a government can help the middle class, it keeps the economy going. If you can help small business, it will keep the economy going. Sometimes people think big business, they think Ford Motor Car, they think, British Airways, they think the big businesses that employ thousands and thousands of people. But in reality, if you can help the little guy with a store in Manhattan that's got 4 employees, those are the people you need to be helping, because they're the ones that create more jobs than the big corporations.
Well, not only that, they keep the money circulating.
Yeah.
The middle class keeps the money circulating. When you have the elite and the poor, you have a great chasm, a great divide of wealth.
Yeah.
And there's no circulation between the 1% and the rest.
Yeah.
So it's in place that middle sector, that where the rubber meets the road, keeps the engine of the economy flourishing.
Yeah.
And that's what we've not had. And I would say we have not had this in the past 12 years. Bush and Obama are one and the same.
Yeah.
So now we're coming to a nationalist businessman who puts America first with business interests and a business expertise. I think this is going to be a tremendous explosion.
So obviously, a lot of the people that are watching this interview are from all over the world. What impact do you think Donald Trump's going to have on the world economy? I mean, if he's going to bring all the jobs back to America and whatever, is this going to damage economies outside the US, do you think? Or is it going to kickstart the whole thing?
It's going to do both. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe the manufacturing sector in places like China will not be as vibrant, but it will also create a national awareness where now countries can realize they can develop their own products for themselves, take care of themselves first prior to exporting and importing. So it's going to be a consciousness shift. So it's going to have both effects, but it's going to be a consciousness shift of nationalism first.
Yeah. Well, I don't think China is going to be hurt so much by Trump. I mean, if we look at technology and we look at demographics, I mean, obviously the Chinese have based their economy over the last 20 to 30 years on producing all these people that could work in the factories. But now they're not allowed to have as many children. They only can have 1 or 2 children per couple. And that's factor number 1. Factor number 2, a lot of systems now, a lot of factories are being automatized. So they're using artificial intelligence to do the work that people were doing before. So Trump or no Trump, Chinese pretty much know that manufacturing, which is what they base their economy on, is the past, which is why they've been sending a lot of their young people abroad to learn English, to learn the ways of business of the West. And now, where the Chinese used to be a culture where they'd take a product and copy it and make it cheaper, now they're actually creating new products.
They copied the products from Americans.
Yeah.
Because in the 50s, 60s, and up to the early 70s, America was the pioneer.
Yeah.
The American cars, American technology, that was the standard.
Yeah.
That standard is being brought back.
Yeah, but and what has happened? I mean, if you just visit any railway station in China or airport, they're a lot more advanced than any railway station or airport in the United States. So the Chinese have kind of moved ahead. But anyway, going back to Trump, I mean, Steve, as an entrepreneur yourself, as a businessman yourself, what are you going to be doing different in your business dealings now that Trump is about to enter the White House and become the next president of the United States?
One, I'm going to be looking for real estate in areas which will now be developed that currently are not.
Okay.
So when he's bringing back Carrier, over Thanksgiving weekend, he was bringing back companies to the United States.
Yeah.
When he's bringing back the Carrier Engineering, those underwater properties in Indiana, would be a nice niche to invest in, because now they're underwater, foreclosed, and they will be having occupants again. So I'm going to look at it as a very niche real estate play, where the rust belt will now become unrusted. Also down in Virginia, West Virginia, where he's bringing back the coal industry, areas like that are going to become investment havens, where you can go in there with a low dollar amount and produce high profit margins.
Yeah, very interesting.
I mean, you can probably get, to get started in an area like that would be easier for an entrepreneur than to start out in Manhattan building anything in Manhattan.
Yeah.
So specifically for real estate investors. So those niche real estate plays are the first thing I'm going to look for.
Yeah, plus Trump made his money with real estate, so obviously he's going to deregulate the system, which is going to make business easier for people like yourself to do. And that's obviously going to circulate money quicker and improve the prosperity of a number of regions in the US, which will be good, obviously, for everybody. Now, what advice would you give to current entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs now that Trump is about to get into the White House? What do you think opportunities are there out there for these new, young, upcoming entrepreneurs?
Well, I would look for the trends of a new pioneering enterprise. Okay. I believe now you have a Silicon Valley. I believe with the industrial sector coming back, we may have something being created in the Midwest. Yeah. So we may have like a green sector now. We may have a new pioneering sector that we are not aware of at the present moment. Mm-hmm. So I would look for the areas that are being rebuilt, look for the needs in those areas, look for the trends in those areas, and develop the niche from that area. Yeah. Because as we say in New York, there's riches from niches. So the niche, the niches will produce the riches. So an entrepreneur always has to be forward-thinking and ahead of the curve. So I would look for the new areas and the new frontiers that are being developed by Trump and his recreation of America First to develop opportunities.
Yeah, so how do you think this Trump being an entrepreneur, successful billionaire businessman in the White House, how is this going to influence business of the future? I mean, what trends do you see in the business world forming over the next few years? I mean, Trump's talking about sending people to Mars. Okay, he mentioned the other day that going to Mars is on the agenda, and he wants to plug more money into that than this global warming thing. So obviously that's something quite big. I mean, man, to go on Mars and colonize Mars. I mean, I know Elon Musk is very into that, and to have the backing of the U.S. government would be a good thing. I mean, who knows how many opportunities business-wise that's going to create in itself. What other things do you think are going to be formed as a result of Trump in the White House?
I think green energy.
Green energy.
I think it's a new frontier that has been talked about. Yeah. I mean, Carter had solar panels in the White House. Yeah. So it's been there for 40 years. It's been there for decades. Yeah. I believe this can create a new energy sector where it creates American jobs with American workers in America. Yeah. So I think even though that he's not an environmentalist per se, he's a capitalist. Yeah. And usually the environmentalists are not capitalists. Yeah. So we've been having this cross conflict. So I believe with his capitalistic aspect of thinking, he will create a green sector. And he has the people behind him like Elon Musk. Yeah. He has a new technology. He has Peter Thiel in his cabinet.
It was a big backer of Trump, during the election. Yeah.
Big backer. He's a technology pioneer.
Yeah, well, just for those that are watching, Elon Musk and Peter Thiel created PayPal. So they're good buddies. They've been in business before. And so there's an interesting connection there.
And they created Palantir.
Yeah.
And now they're creating a solar roof.
Yeah.
They're creating solar technology. So I think we're going to have a technological revolution in the green area, in the green sector. That's one.
Okay. Yeah.
That's one major one.
Yeah.
I also believe once we deregulate, remove Dodd-Frank and the Volcker rule within Dodd-Frank, we are going to have a free economy, which if we alter the education within the United States, when a person going through grade school should have a financial education, or know about the debt system, the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
If we can educate the youth and deregulate it, I think we will go to a new standard where we'll never go back. Meaning, when there's an economic setback, I don't think politicians will be calling for regulation.
Yeah.
I think they'll be calling for more deregulation to get these tyrannical setbacks off you. I mean, in the United States, you don't even know what's legal or not legal anymore.
Yeah.
You don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah.
And this is supposed to be the forefront of capitalism.
Yeah.
It's not at all. I mean, Obamacare strangles the small business, strangles middle America, strangles the middle class.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very common now where Obamacare, your medical insurance is more expensive than your mortgage.
Yeah, well, my business partner, I mean, his medical is like $24,000 a year or something like that. I mean, that's astronomical. I mean, and you're not allowed to claim anything until you've spent more than $16,000.
It's ridiculous.
So let's say your medical bill for the year is $12,000. What do you have medical insurance for? Because you've got to fork out the $12,000.
Well, there's one particular family member of mine. Her medical insurance escalated to the mid 2000s, $2,500 per month.
Yeah,
it's more than her mortgage.
Yeah,
and you have no choice but to take it.
Yeah.
So I think once this is erased, now you go back where you have a extra $2,000 a month of disposable income.
Yeah,
that it will be a shot in the arm.
Yeah,
it would be a shot in the arm for most Americans.
Yeah, yeah.
So I see us going to an era of capitalism that will not be turned back because of the prosperity and the people flourishing within the system now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because this year we've had a lot of shake-ups in the world with Brexit here in England. Everybody was convinced that the UK were going to stay in the European Union, and then surprise, surprise, 52% of us, and I include myself, proudly we voted to exit the European Union, which to me is just a communist thing. The word union, Soviet Union, European Union. I've seen it unravel over the last 25 years. More and more socialist laws and rules and regulations being introduced throughout the whole of Europe, trying to put all these 28 nations into one, which is never going to happen because everyone speaks different languages, everybody eats different food on their plate at dinner time. How are you going to get all these 28 different nations to agree? I mean, it's just impossible. I mean, you even struggle in the United States where people in California are different to people in Texas that are different to people in New York. It's just, and you all speak the same language. So, I mean, how are we going to make that happen here in Europe? So we've had the shake-up with Brexit, the shake-up with Trump. Then if we look further afield and look into India, I mean, India have had an entrepreneur at the helm of their government for over a year now, and he's been reforming a lot of things, Mr. Narendra Modi, and he's been doing a very good job over there in India, which is a difficult place to govern. So it almost seems like we're seeing a rise of entrepreneurs into government, and someone like Trump that says, I don't want to be paid. And I think the prime minister of a country or the president should not be paid. I think it should be a successful person that on a voluntary basis puts their talents and services and experience to the service of the nation, and they're not there to make money. I think of a former UK prime minister that now turned businessman, and he's making an absolute fortune as a businessman. And before he was a socialist politician.
We lost sight of the fact that the government is a public service.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why these socialist countries are falling, because it does not serve the public.
Yeah.
These socialist-minded governments serve themselves.
Yeah.
The public is neglected and the public is revolting because they are suffering. So Trump is the personification of this.
Yeah.
He's not in any way a traditional politician. He says all the wrong things. He's incorrect. He's non-diplomatic. But people feel a sense of promise in the fact that he will serve them and not have the government serve itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think, people are pointing finger at Nigel Farage over here in England that created the whole Brexit movement and Trump in America. But in reality, these two people have tapped into a movement that was already happening. And I think the internet and social media have helped this happen. I mean, I remember the very first time I flew into Berlin as a pilot. I had a very good view from the cockpit, and we're coming down. As we got closer and closer and closer, I could see the contrast in the buildings from the west side of Berlin and the east side of Berlin. You could physically see it from the air. And on the west side, you would see a lot of creativity in the buildings and the architecture. And on the east side, there was like no emotion in the actual architecture and art. There was no art. There was like no heart in the building. That's what socialism does. And as you said, I mean, we just look at South America. How many socialist nations have fallen over the last few years, one after the other? It just doesn't work. You have to let people be creative. It's that creativity which distinguishes us as humans from machines and from even from animals. Even though some animals are very creative, I must say.
Yeah.
Like the beavers. I mean, the beavers are just amazing.
We can't suffocate the people and regulate the people.
Yeah.
We're suffocating and regulating, and at the same time, people are suffering. That's why it doesn't work. That's why it will never work. And now you get these embodiments like Nigel Farage, like Donald Trump. My curiosity is to see who's next.
Yeah, that's true.
I know France has a female running for president that looks very favorable.
Yeah.
It's an age we may never see again. We may look back at this in 100 years and say, can you believe people lived like that? That they would subject their own individual sovereignty and autonomy to someone else? I mean, it would look absurd.
Yeah. So, Steve, how do you think all this is going to influence the private jet world? Do you think people are going to be using more private jets? And what's your view on that?
Well, for one, people are going to have more money to be able to purchase private jets.
Yeah.
It's going to have a huge impact on private jets.
Yeah.
I mean, people are going to have disposable income. People are going to have the desire to go within America as well. So, you may have a place in, say, Indiana, which I bring up a lot because of this carrier company. You may have private executives needing to go there that do not have a traditional airport.
Yeah.
So the private jets, being that the people do have disposable income, being that there are new opportunities in new areas that are not as well developed as major metropolitan areas, I think this will greatly positively affect the private jet business.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, we've been seeing the calls coming in since Trump won the election and the emails and that. It seems like everybody's woken up. It's very, very interesting to see how everything's shifted. Where there was still, I think a lot of people on the sidelines didn't really want to say that they were for Trump, or not quite sure what was going to happen, how the markets were going to react. And of course, the mainstream media were completely against him. So I remember switching the TV on the day before the election, and everybody was saying that Hillary had won already. And even Newsweek published a cover with Madam President written on it. They were so sure that she had won, and that was already in circulation, apparently, in some news agents here in England. And then suddenly, surprise, surprise, things went the other way. So I think, overall for business, it's definitely going to be positive. Now, what other advice would you give to young people that are watching this, or people that are about to jump into business? What would you suggest they do now that we've got a different politician, well, let's go, a non-politician in the White House?
I would specifically say for the young European audience to look at American opportunities in technology.
Yeah.
I would say, let's not neglect Silicon Valley and let's not put the standard there.
Yeah.
But let's look more into green tech, clean tech. I would even call real estate tech.
Yeah.
Because everything's evolving.
Yeah.
I mean, fintech, financial technology, biotechnology, it's even coming into even further. And I think the next frontier will be green tech and medical technology.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I think Trump understands that and understands.
Well, I just think Trump understands. Let it all happen.
Yeah.
Create an ecosystem, create the environment where prosperity and where you're allowed to flourish and prosper. Yeah. And from that, all these opportunities, frontiers, new paradigms will arise. So you have to be ahead of the trends.
Yeah. What countries do you think are going to benefit the most from Donald Trump besides America, from Donald Trump in the White House?
I think Mexico will.
Yeah.
Because now Mexico's going to have to get its act together.
Yeah.
I think the Muslim world, the Arab world will. Because if you don't fight terrorism, we will. And not only that, Trump makes it very clear what every red-blooded American thinks but will not say. Mm-hmm. We're going to go in there and we're going to take your oil. Mm-hmm. Trump says this. We're going to go in there and we're going to take your oil. Back in the.
Or they could turn around and say, you know what? We don't need your oil anymore. We've got our own oil. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Yeah, I'll clean up your act.
And then what's going to happen if they haven't got their oil? If their oil is not being bought by other nations such as the United States, what's going to happen? I mean, their oil price is going to come down. Their profit's going to come down, and it's going to be big trouble for the Arabs.
Big trouble. Yeah. And they're going to have to. And their terrorism nonsense is not going to work anymore.
Yeah.
So if we have like a global front on terrorism now, or if we join the UK instead of a NATO in a traditional conflict, if we join together with them in a guerrilla conflict, saying, listen, this is a new frontier of war.
Well,
this is guerrilla war.
Yeah, there's already talks now of the UK teaming up with Canada, Australia, and New Zealand and creating a thing called CANZUK, where they're going to allow free movement of people amongst these four nations. And recently they've started to say, well, why don't we include the United States as well? Now, the commonality that the four countries have is that the Queen of England is a sovereign over the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, but they also speak the same language. But then recently they've started to say, well, why don't we include the United States, which would mean that a person in the US could come and live in London and work in London without needing a visa. Someone from London could go and work in New York without needing a visa. Obviously the relationship between the UK and the US has been very good over the years. I believe that over the last probably 10 years, under Obama and that, it's kind of got a little bit worse. But now we know that Trump he landed here the day after we voted to leave the EU. And he made that big speech up at this golf course in Scotland. So I think probably one of the countries, if not the country that will benefit the most from Donald Trump in the White House is going to be the UK. And if we do end up doing this agreement with Canada and the US join, I think that will benefit all five of these nations. What will benefit will be this, in the sense that the smart people will be able to move from country to country and do deals and develop the technology that you've been talking about in a lot faster manner, and this will benefit these countries tremendously.
It's a good idea. It's a brain exchange.
Yeah, that's what we need.
Taking the top. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not that I will come and live in New York forever or you in London. We'll come for a few years, and then there'll be a back and forth, and I think everybody will benefit.
But we're operating in a way where we work with each other, but we're not under one umbrella.
Yeah, and that is key. That is key.
But we're not dependent on each other.
Yeah, and I think
we'll benefit. Yeah, we'll benefit each other where it benefits both of us.
Yes.
And where it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And we won't be beholden.
Yeah.
I mean, not being beholden to another bodies. That's the beauty of this arrangement.
Yeah, because everybody speaks the same language, and as long as we remain independent, we have our own currency, and then when and where we wish to trade with each other, there's no tax. So if I send you a car I build in the UK and I send it to you in New York, there's no import tax. And if you build a new computer and you send it to me in London, there's no import tax for me. So that makes it easier for you and I to do business together.
That should be the function of government.
Yeah.
To make society better.
Yeah.
Not to regulate it so it impedes growth.
Yeah.
I mean, this system right here, you make a car that's better than an American-made car. It's the same no tax on it. This is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who can disagree with this?
Yeah. Well, probably the European Parliament, but because they tend to make life difficult for everybody and for business in particular. And this is really sad because, I mean, Europe has been an important, let's say, group of nations in the history of the world. But all this regulation is just slowing things down. I mean, the amount of young talent that's leaving Europe and moving to Australia, Canada, United States, and whatever. I mean, it's just unbelievable, unbelievable the amount of talent that's leaving. It's just because these young people, they grow up, they start traveling, and they say, because of these all these low-cost airlines allow you to travel, and they go away for the weekend. I mean, I got a good friend of mine in Milan. He was assistant professor at university, and some of his students were allowed to come for a semester to university in London. They arrive in London, and they're doing this recruitment thing. Says, oh, I'll go along and see what's going on. And British Aerospace stick a contract in front of the guy's nose for a lot more money than he would ever get in Italy. He turns around and says, you know what? I'm not coming back. I'm staying here.
Hey, that's the way it works.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. So I think deregulating the whole system is going to benefit everybody. And of course,
absolutely.
You've got to get your act together. If you want the best brains to come and work for you, you've got to be able to put something on the plate for them that entices them to come towards you.
Yeah, but in the difference now is you're allowed to be.
Yeah.
Before you're not allowed to be.
Yeah.
There's always some deregulation or limitation that prevented this. Now we have an environment of prosperity and we're allowed to flourish now. But now it's it's a meritocracy, not something different.
Yeah, you said it, meritocracy. And I think
may the best man win.
Yeah, I mean, social media has been a great enhancer of all this, because if you look at, for example, even the evolution of television over the last 10, 15 years, what are the top shows? They are all reality TV shows. Think Survivors, think The Apprentice, think Dragon's Den, think Shark Tank. They're all reality TV shows. Why? Because you put even X Factor, America's Got Talent. They are real people going out there and showing their talent. And people want to speak to real people. This is why YouTube has become the #1 TV station in the world, because you've got real people on there, like we're talking right now, real people talking about real things, and not these fake people that you get on the big networks. And the big networks, I think, are destined to fail.
I think so too. They don't represent the masses.
Yeah.
They try to control us, and people can't stand that.
Yeah, I mean, I always think of the story of the piano guys. I mean, these guys were 4 dads in St. George, Utah. Now, who's ever heard of St. George, Utah? And they're playing around with this piano in this store. And one of them says, let's take the piano out to the desert and record a video and put it on YouTube. And then we're just mucking around, having fun. And then before you know it, they get 1, 2, 3, 4 million hits on YouTube. And then Sony Records rings them up and says, we'd like to do a contract with you guys.
Yeah, you see, you can't regulate it, you can't control it. And it flourishes.
I mean, once upon a time, if you were a musician, you had to go to New York, you had to audition, or you had to get into some club and play for like every night till late, hoping that some talent scout was going to come in and see you. Now you just record a video on YouTube from Siberia, put it on YouTube, and then someone in New York sees it and says, I want this guy.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
There's no other way.
I think it's giving, especially young people, we are moving into an age of opportunity that we've never seen before. And as long as this system is out there and it's free and it allows people to move around, as you said before, the best will win.
As it should be.
Yeah, as it should be.
It always amazes me how the progressives and the liberals always talk about Darwinism and the theory of evolution.
Yeah.
And how the strongest of the survival, except when it comes to things they don't like.
Yeah.
It's survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah. That's the way nature is.
It's,
May the strongest survive and the strongest thrive.
And also seeing normal people succeed at whatever they're good at, I think inspires a lot of young people to say, well, I've got a talent for whatever it is, and let me do a YouTube channel. And you know, my oldest son's he likes technology. He's got this YouTube channel about technology, and he gets stuff arrives every day at the house. They're sending him for free from all over the world. And now they're starting to send him stuff for free and pay him to review the product. And he's only 16, and he's getting stuff sent to him from China, Japan, Finland, US, UK, from all over. It's like it's going like crazy.
And what did it cost? Cost them what? 20 minutes on the internet setting up his channel.
Yeah,
it's his spirit. It's his inner drive that was allowed to envelop this opportunity, and nothing restricted him. And that's the beauty of this.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the UK this year we had Leicester City win the Premier League soccer tournament, and that was totally unexpected. The underdog. We have Brexit win with this election. We see Donald Trump win. It's teaching people that even the underdog has a chance in this world. You don't have to be born into the home of a billionaire to be successful in life.
And the power system is crumbling. The control system.
Yeah.
People are no longer buying into it.
Yeah.
And they no longer gave the masses a bread in a circus. And now they're crumbling from within. Yeah. And I hope they can get cleaned up completely. Because all they're doing is just impeding our abilities and not letting the world thrive like it should.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we sit here and watch programs like America's Got Talent or X Factor and things like that, and you say there's so much talent in the world. There is so much talent, but there's also so much unexpressed talent. People that live I mean, think of Susan Boyle. I mean, she became a celebrity singer at well gone 50 years old. Where was she all this time?
She was always there. She just did not fit a prototype. She just did not fit a standard. She just not fit a media archetype. And the media is they always want to design an archetype of what we should be.
Yeah.
So through popular culture, the powers that be wanted to mass society fitting this archetype, this component of control method. She was always there. There are many more like her.
Yeah, now,
but they're not allowed to prosper.
Tell us a bit about your sports business, because I think it's interesting, and it's also an interesting trend business-wise. Tell us a bit about it and where you see it going in the future.
Well, we would like to mix sports with, new upcoming sectors of technology. Mm-hmm. So one, I would like to create a virtual reality boxing event.
Oh.
Where we can see the boxer in the ring, but in a 3D, in a virtual reality. So we know what to do. We can, instead of watching it flat on the screen, it's in a contained environment, and this can be done. So we'd go see the boxer or even an MMA guy with the virtual reality kit, and this would change the whole paradigm of sports.
So what you're saying is that one guy could be in the Philippines, the other guy could be in New York, and they meet each other in the virtual world and they fight each other?
Or we could watch a Pacquiao-Mayweather fight in virtual reality.
So they would be actually fighting, but you would watch it in your living room with them fighting in your living room, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Because boxing needs a shot in the arm.
Yeah.
Or it's a great sport, but it's a controlled environment.
Yep. 2,
a controlled space. 3, it's a small space.
Yeah.
And I believe with the outputs and strategic point placements of the camera, we can create the actual match as a virtual reality. So
very fascinating.
That would be so. It's all about creating new frontiers.
Yeah. Very fascinating. So, ladies and gentlemen that you're watching, look out for Steve Christmann, because as you hear, he's a man with a vision. He's a man that's going somewhere for the future. He's a man with some innovative ideas. And with Trump in the White House, I'm sure that we'll be seeing a lot more of Steve Christmann. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. I'll see you.